Okay, members, we're now live. In the absence of the chairman, could I ask for nominations for a chairman for this meeting only, please?
Can I nominate Councillor Iqbal, please? It's Councillor Ramsden.
I'll second that.
Okay. Is everyone in agreement with that? Thank you. Over to you, Councillor Iqbal.
Thanks a lot, Jane, and good evening, ladies and gentlemen. And first of all, Happy New Year to everybody. Can I just do a quick roll call just to check which councillors are here? So if I call your name out, if you just acknowledge that you're here, then I know. Councillor George Adam?
Here.
Thank you. Nadeem Ahmed?
Present.
Zafar Ali? Zafar Ali? No, not yet. Councillor Mohammed Amar? Not yet. Eileen Ansar?
Yes, I'm here.
Thank you. Councillor Mohammed Aslam?
Present.
Okay. Zafar, I can see you. Zafar, are you here?
I'm here, yeah.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Tommy Cooney?
Here.
Thanks, Tommy. Councillor Julie Henderson? No. Can I ask, if you're not speaking, if you just mute yourself, there's a lot of interference, please, if you'll. Thank you. I'm obviously here. Councillor Ashad Mahmood?
Present.
Thank you. Councillor Neil McGowan?
Present.
Thank you. Councillor Kathleen Short?
Here.
Thank you. Councillor Yvonne Tennant?
Here.
Thank you. And Councillor Sheila Wicks? Sheila, I can see you, but I can't hear you. That's right, I can see you, so at some point you'll unmute yourself. Thank you. Okay, in terms of apologies, I've got Councillor Mohammed Saqib who's offered his apology. On behalf of the committee, if Jane, you can send Saqib a message, please, to wish him well. Saqib's currently recovering from COVID, so I'm sure everybody wishes him well in terms of his recovery. And if I can just check in terms of members of the public that have asked to speak, I've got Marilyn McGinty, who wishes to speak on the Castercliffs application. Marilyn, I'm sure I saw you earlier.
I'm here, thank you.
That's fine, excellent. If you just mute yourself, and then when your turn comes, I invite you to speak. Okay, colleagues, item 1 is declarations of interest. Is there any councillor who's got any declarations to declare? No. Okay, item 2 is public question time. Is there any member of the public that wishes to ask a question of the committee that's not on the agenda?
I've not been notified of anybody, Chairman.
All right, thanks, Jane. Item 3 is the minutes of the last meeting. Everybody happy they're a correct record? Yeah, nodding of heads.
Move down.
Item 4 is, thank you. Item 4 is the progress report. It's just for noting. Okay, moving on to item 5 is police issues, and we've got PCSO Holly May Pinder with us, we've circulated the crime figures earlier, Holly. So if you just want to mute yourself and bring us up to speed in terms of any police matters, please. Thank you.
Yeah, no, that's great. Thank you. You have got me today. My colleague PC Lorna, who is our new neighbourhood policing officer, she was going to join on from home, but I don't think she's had much luck. So hopefully she'll be at the next one to meet you all. Looking at the crime figures, which are circulated, as I said, sorry they came late. I received them late also. A lot of the crime has reduced since last year quite significantly. So that's a good note. There's nothing major to point out, but I did want to discuss speeding and social behaviour and littering. Regards to the speeding, I already have one up underway, which is using the speed device, use of DVSA, which is Road Safety Standards organisation, and I plan to get them out again soon. So I'm putting hold of it because of the weather. As we can all appreciate, it's not been the safest of weather to be messing around with vehicles, so hopefully we'll get that up and running soon. Lorna, who is the new PC, has plans to do another op and project whereby she will target as a team and social behaviour. So to know if you have any vehicle registrations, make, models, similar recordings, video evidence that the public bring to you or you can bring forward to us, please send it forward, and we'll look into it, as we are targeting antisocial drivers, as it is a big concern in Nelson at current. I also wanted to raise, obviously, I'm very happy with the fact that Chapel House Road, Lorna mentioned they were getting speed bumps, which is great. Great way to reduce speed, great reducing speed measure. I was half thinking about Wade's House Road. I feel like that would benefit from also the use of speed bumps, with the speed that cars can go up and down that road. To say it's a 20 mile per hour, they certainly don't use it as a 20 mile per hour. Moving on to littering, myself and a new PCSO called Donna, she's not in today, otherwise she would be here with me. We're planning a project to clean up our streets. We only thought of it a couple of weeks ago, so we're doing a lot of planning and preparation before we bring it fully forward. We had a walk around our area and we actually could not believe the amounts of littering, fly tipping. So we want to involve schools, council, cadets, other police agencies. So obviously important we have clean streets now more than ever. We'll use broken window theory to explain this to partners. And we'll also be exploring the idea of street leaders, if someone was willing to come forward and take ownership of their street. There's a project ongoing, which is down south, which I think is a very good idea, where you adopt a street, just take a bit of ownership and pride. And I think with cleaner streets, it will reduce crime because people are less likely to commit crime. In addition, looking at antisocial behaviour, now there is a significant amount of COVID reports. A lot of people are breaching COVID. Even myself, I was foot patrolling street in Marsden not so long ago, and I was walking down the street, I just came across a big party in a house. So it's clear people are just ignoring the rules. So we're having a lot of logs in response to things like that. However, it's good people are logging it, and thankfully we've got a COVID car on from 3 in the afternoon till 12 midnight, so they're attending a lot of these calls. But to clarify, with response to businesses, I just wanted to clarify the council are taking ownership of businesses. Police will provide support, however it's predominantly council who deal with that, whereas police deal with people gathering crowds and houses where there's, for instance, lots of family visiting one house or house party. What else did I want to? But yeah, last time I came on this committee meeting, there was a councillor who addressed concerns regarding Napier Street criminal damages. The public hadn't been updated. Done some digging, and I've been contacted today. One female has been interviewed regarding that. The investigation, unbeknownst to me, is actually still very much ongoing, so I can't give away too much information, but they've got a view to make an arrest ongoing. I'd offer any questions. Just one more thing. I know everyone will be aware of, but Barkhouse Road, there was a burglary where some electric bikes were taken out of the garage. That investigation is ongoing. Inquiries are being made. However, they did locate identified the vehicle involved and the location that it is currently at. So inquiries are still ongoing, but going in the right direction.
Okay, thanks for that, Holly. I've got Councillor Neil McGowan. Neil?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chairman, for bringing me in. Hi, Holly.
Hello.
Hiya. Well, as you know, we've been working together with yourself and your previous colleague in regards to speeding on Hallam Road and Townhouse Road. Yeah. Now, there was a serious RTA last week regarding an Audi and a Mercedes. Whereabouts are you on that one? Have you made any progress?
I am not sure I did personally attend it. However, do you know what day it was roughly? And I can look into it and I'll give you a personal call and update you.
I don't have an exact day, but I can find that off the Action for Marsden Facebook.
Yeah. No, if you let me know, I'll look into it. With regards to, I was trying to do some work on it to try and get maybe an island at the top like you suggested or anything to reduce speed on that road. I've been with the speed camera multiple times and I will be continuing to go out with it. I've tried speaking to multiple residents on the road. However, many were not engaging or they were elderly and they couldn't sign up thanks to talking, which I was trying to get my data off. So trying to look at other ways that we can make a difference on that road, because I do know it's a very concerning road and people use it as a racetrack. I've noticed recently more donut markings on top of, Townhouse Road where it meets Barkhouse Road.
Yeah, the big large.
Not Barkhouse Road, Hallam Road, sorry.
Yeah.
So I'm going to continue to patrol more frequently up there because I thought that might have stopped because I spoke to a resident and he said it calmed down. It seems they've started up again. So it will be on the list.
Excellent. Excellent. Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
All right, Neil, thank you. Next, I'll let Councillor Zafar Ali, then Nadeem Ahmed, and then George Adam. Zafar?
Hi, good evening, Holly. Thank you for the update. In particular, around Napier Street, that has been flagged up by a number of residents, and it continues to be the case. As you can imagine, it was quite a serious set of issues around a property there. So I thank you and your colleagues for the hard work that's been put in to bring justice to the streets around there. In terms of the issue over speeding, you mentioned Chapel House Road is getting some speed calming measures. That, however, is the junction towards the bottom end of Chapel House Road as you're going back towards Larch Street. I believe Larch Street is also getting an additional raised bed on the highway there. I think we do, however, need to work together to raise and gather support for further speed calming measures up Chapel House Road towards Halifax Road, as though you're going towards Briarfield, which is the steepest part of Chapel House Road. It seems to be, and it has been used as a racetrack now for the good part of, I'd say, 10, 15 years. There aren't any speed bumps up that particular section of the highway. I don't see why we couldn't have speed calming measures like the ones at the top of Railway Street, which are bus friendly, but are definitely not avoidable when it comes to speeding drivers trying to avoid them. You mentioned Wades House Road, Holly. I absolutely agree with you. Wades House Road should also be on the priority list for speed calming measures. And if we get similar bumps like the ones on Railway Street going towards the top of Clover Hill Road, I think that will do the trick. It'll certainly slow down drivers in both directions, going up and down. So I just wanted to make those comments heard, that I would love to work alongside you and your colleagues to gather support and get some momentum through this committee, and of course the Traffic Liaison Committee, which is usually attended by the officers of Pendle Borough Council, Lancashire County Council and others. I don't know if the police have a seat at the table on that particular committee. If they do, then hopefully these comments will go back on that. If they don't, then hopefully when this issue gathers momentum and some speed and attention, hopefully we can work together to make sure that we secure the funding from county and other partners who have helped with the speed calming measures at Chapel House Road to go ahead. So yeah, thank you for raising that issue.
Yeah, no, definitely, that sounds great. Another thing I'm trying to look at as well is not just in that area, but quite, Southfield, Marsden, obviously Clover Hill and Walden. Street road markings definitely, I wouldn't say are clear, where you come to a junction. I've noticed that driving myself. I'm not sure if it's my right of way or it's someone on another road's right of way, because the markings just aren't clear enough. They definitely need redoing and looking at. So I'm going to aim to go out myself within this week, a couple of weeks, and take pictures and just make examples of the danger that it can cause to drivers if they're not aware of whose right of way it is.
Okay, thanks, Holly. Next, I've got Councillor Nadeem Ahmed. Nadeem.
Thank you, Holly, for raising the points that you have, and I'm glad you've raised the point about the road markings. I wasn't going to mention it, but now that you mentioned it, in terms of road marking, I think it's a problem across Nelson, really, and across the borough. Just want to highlight a particular area around Every Street in Nelson, particularly Loamshire Road area. There's been numerous accidents on that road. I myself personally have been involved in an RTA there, and it was simply because the gentleman who was driving came down Loamshire Road, wasn't familiar with the area, and didn't see the road markings and didn't stop. So it is a problem along that part of Every Street. Just want to go back to the speeding issue. Again, speeding, we've mentioned this at numerous area committee meetings. It's a problem across the country, really, but we're obviously concerned about Nelson this evening. But the speeding issue is a huge problem with vehicles speeding across Nelson, particularly the main roads. For example, I represent Whitefield. We've got problems along Manchester Road, Carr Road. We have had some speed restrictions implemented on Carr Road. It's kind of eliminated some of the problems, but the problems still exist. And it's just totally unruly drivers who've got no care for the residents and the other road users and the members of the public. And it's not only the speeding vehicles, it's the loud antisocial vehicle with these loud exhausts, which are totally unacceptable. I would like to see some action being taken against them type of vehicles who are causing noise at unsociable hours. In terms of, again, related to vehicles, it's dangerous parking. At the last meeting, I raised a particular area of Carr Road toward the top of the bridge near the health centre and Pendle Street near the bridge, where vehicles are being parked on a daily basis and still are till this day, parked on the bridge, and it has gone to Lancashire County Council. But I'd like to see what help and assistance the police can give, because they are parked in a dangerous manner and are likely to cause a serious road traffic accident. So I'd like to hear your views on that, Holly, once I've finished. Congratulate you on the littering initiative. I think that's fantastic, and applaud you for taking the lead on that. So hopefully we'll see that reaping benefits in the future. In terms of, you've mentioned COVID, obviously we've seen, unfortunately, lots of people who've lost their lives and continue to suffer through COVID, and many people have lost their loved ones. But I would say, I think the vast majority of the people have followed the guidelines. It is the minority. And again, it's a difficult job for business owners, yourselves, and I think it's a responsibility on us all to make sure that we do follow the rules. Thank you for that. So I'd like to hear your comments on the points I've raised, Holly.
Yeah, looking at your Manchester Road, Carr Road areas, we have recently been trying to get on foot more. We've recently got these new body-worn cameras. So in the evenings, predominantly when it's a bit worse, we're trying to be on foot more and walking down these main roads, having our body cameras on, trying to capture any vehicles that have loud exhausts or are driving irresponsibly. Similarly, our PC has been liaising with a sergeant at TACOPS, which is Tactical Operations and Traffic, where we're going to be giving them registrations, target areas. They're going to be coming over here on operations, specifically targeting them antisocial drivers, popping exhaust vehicles that are in the Nelson area as a whole, as it's one of our biggest concerns, really, and biggest problems. I understand the exhausts are absolutely awful. With the exhaust, luckily, we can issue Section 59s. It's just obviously having the registrations, so we can issue them. Without registrations, we can't issue them. And as you can all imagine, when a police car's around, everyone drives respectively. And I know sometimes when I'm walking, you can tell that a car's been driving silly, but as soon as it sees me, it slows right down, and then until it's a bit I'm out of sight, boom, it's off, which is a big problem. With response to Carr Road, Pendle Street, That's going to be my mission tomorrow now. So tomorrow I will walk down there and have a look. Is there any road markings to say not to park there?
There's no road markings.
No, there's never been road markings. It was last considered at the County Council's highway group a few months ago.
Yeah.
They felt there wasn't a need for road markings, but as Councillor Ahmed is saying, that if you can add some support to that, maybe that'll help them reconsider their view.
Well, what I'll do then tomorrow, I'll have a walk down and I'll find the area you're talking about, just so I know. I'll take a few pictures. I'll explain to my colleagues what's ongoing. Similarly, if you notice a vehicle parked dangerously, if you could get me an example of how it's being parked, because I know when I tend to walk down Carr Road, there's no cars, because I walk down there a lot, so I'm struggling to know where it is. So if someone could maybe get a picture just to put it into perspective for me, that'd be great as well. But I'll have a walk down tomorrow and try and figure it out at least, and we'll start patrolling it more often. Is there certain times, or is it during the day, evening?
Holly, they'll be there all the day, because I walk past there 2-3 times every day. And towards, is he going from the bottom end of Carr Road? As soon as you go above the bridge, they're immediately on the right hand side.
Right.
And same immediately on Pendle Street, from Morrison's coming down Pendle Street, immediately on both sides on Pendle Street.
I think I know where you mean now, actually. No, right. I'll have a look tomorrow, definitely. And similarly, if vehicles are parked, if I think dangerously, I will figure out who owns the cars and have a word with them about parking there and the way they're parking. I'll start doing that, and then I'll report back to you. Is that Nadeem Ahmed?
It is, yeah.
Yeah.
Either message.
And then just to assist you, Holly, if Nadeem regularly walks, pounds the streets of Carr Road up and down the hill a few times a day, as he said, he can help you by sending you direct the registration numbers, and it'll save you time as well. Yeah,
that'd be absolutely great. Even if he gets a snaps a picture, that'd help me 100% with the registration on, and then I will be sure to go and speak with the owner of the vehicle.
Okay, thank you. Next, I've got Councillor George Adam. George?
Okay.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Good evening, Holly.
Hello.
You're talking now to an increasingly frustrated old man. Nobody takes responsibility for anything. There's a car opposite my house. It's running about. No MOT, no tax, so obviously isn't insured. I've reported it at least 5 times to the DVLA. They say, fill the form in, report an untaxed car, which I have done. If it's no MOT, report it to the police, which the police have had it reported to them. And it's still there being driven about.
Yeah, I understand completely, because I've tried myself contacting DVLA to get them out in Nelson and target a lot of vehicles on like a 3-day operation. I've had no luck with that. I've not even got a reply, but I will keep nagging, because I do want DVLA to come out into Nelson, because we have a considerable amount of vehicles that are untaxed. With regards to MOT, no, insurance is not valid. Have you got a video of the vehicle being driven? With vehicles being reported with no insurance, we really have to see that vehicle being driven to remove it for Section 165, which is no insurance.
Well, you know, Holly, I'm getting so frustrated, I'll just take things into my own hands, because he has parked in front of my drive and I've told him to shift it because he's no tax and it shouldn't be on the road. The fella's ex-criminal. I've just had enough.
What's the vehicle red? Where is it?
Holly.
Right.
Holly, George, if we take this offline, because obviously this is a public meeting, there may be certain people watching who made George pick up the registration number. So if Holly, if you want to arrange to give George a ring tomorrow, then
Yeah.
you can give you the details offline if that's okay, please.
Yeah, that's fine. George, do you have a number? Could you email it me?
I'll get Jane. Yeah, I'll get Jane to email it to you, Holly.
Right, that's great. Thank you. We'll bring that up tomorrow then.
All right.
Right, I'll let the whole world know.
I'm sure you will, George. Yvonne? Councillor Yvonne Tennant, you're on mute.
Right. Yeah, hiya, Holly. Just a quick addition to Councillor Armand's thing, really. Junction of Carr Road and Howard Street, there are cars and vans parked up to the, well, opposite the junction and also up to the corners of the junction, both sides round, so on Howard Street and Carr Road. And considering, you know, we do get cars speeding down Carr Road, there's going to be a serious accident there one of these days, because if you're coming out of Howard Street onto Carr Road, you've got no view at all. I mean, we've had a couple of near misses around that way, so that might be one. And that's all times of day and night. They're parked right up to the corners.
Right, so that's vehicles parked on. With that, we can get them removed because they're obstruction.
Okay.
We've got to park within 15 metres. I think it is, don't quote me on it, about 15 foot even from a corner.
Oh, they're nothing like that. They're like this on the corners.
So first thing first, what I'd do is I'd go speak to the owner. If that vehicle was seen to be doing that again, then I'd remove it for obstruction or ticket the owner for obstruction straight up.
Okay.
We won't like that, will they? So if you have pictures of registrations in a vehicle parked like that, I will be happy to go and straight away talk to them. Meanwhile, while I'm out on patrol tomorrow, I'll have a look, and if there is vehicles parked like that, I will be having strong words, if not ticketing for obstruction.
Great, thank you. Thank you.
Thank you, Holly. Zafar, is that a legacy hand or is there something new?
No, just a quick one, Chairman. Would you be kind enough just to minute the remarks I've made in regards to gathering support for speed bumps up Chapel House Road and Wades House Road? And if at all possible, could we ask committee section to maybe have an initial conversation at the very least with Scott Worley, who I understand is obviously on the traffic liaison working group with Lancashire County Council, if that's at all possible?
Well, Jane will add it to the minutes. In terms of speaking to Scott, I think as councillors, you're more than entitled to talk to him direct, so you can email him on the back of this conversation this evening.
I'm sure I've got your support on that as well, Chairman. Thank you.
Absolutely, absolutely. Holly, thank you very much for your assistance this evening. You're more than welcome to stop and listen to these wonderful councillors debating a lot of things. Otherwise, feel free to sign off, whichever you feel.
Unfortunately, demands very busy tonight, so they've already been requesting me, but I put you guys aside, so I better leave. But thank you all. Hopefully in the next meeting, the new PCSO and PC should hopefully be present.
Okay, that's fine.
Thanks very much. Bye.
Thanks, bye-bye. Okay, colleagues, the next item is the planning applications. I'm just conscious that she's been waiting a while, so I'm going to use the chairman's prerogative and bring forward the Castercliff Academy application first. Marilyn, are you still with us? Oh, she's there yet.
I am.
Marilyn,
Yeah.
can you hear
Yeah.
me? Okay.
I can, yes,
you've got up
thank
to you've got up to a maximum of 5 minutes in which to address the committee, and then unless the councillor has any questions to you directly, you're not allowed to come back in. So the floor's yours for up to 5 minutes.
Okay, so thank you for allowing me to talk today. Just wanted to really put forward the objections. Appreciate that the planning is likely to go ahead for the school, but from a resident's point of view, we have some real concerns. The main objections for the planning are the nuisance that it's going to cause for residents, the traffic generation, the noise and disturbance, and the lack of turning availability on Marsden Hall Road. Hopefully most of the councillors are aware that Marsden Hall Road is a blight to many of the residents who live here. Unfortunately, Councillor Idden of Lancashire County Council doesn't see it as a major issue twice a day, whereby we are inundated with cars illegally parked most of the time, abuse from residents, from parents when we try to address these issues. The actual school do nothing whatsoever to help and support us as residents. We have some real concerns about the planning that is proposed for Castercliff. It's an extension. My understanding is it's 2 classrooms initially with a further 3 planned. This will increase the amount of traffic that is going to be coming along Marsden Hall Road. The state of the road at the moment is atrocious, with potholes, causing severe damage. I myself, one of the springs has gone on my car. I've been advised that that's the state of the roads. So from the point of view of the planning, it's more around assurances and concerns. So there's a couple of things. Obviously, parking is a real issue already. We've had incidents where an ambulance couldn't get to the old folks' home, 999, blue lights, couldn't get through because unfortunately the person who took ill at 9 o'clock in the morning, or between 8:30 and 9, which is when we have the issues. The parents parking disabled spaces. There's not many on the road, but they do take those. So in order to do this planning and extension to the school, what has the school got in place for getting the large plant operational, you know, the trucks, etc., that are going to be delivering bricks, all the stuff that is needed for the extension? What are the plans to do that? When will the work be completed? From a resident's point of view, we've just had 3 months almost of nightly disturbances while they've been replacing a boiler. This is people working in the school from 6 o'clock at night till between 3 and 4 o'clock in the morning, talking, throwing radiators in skips. The residents have had disturbed night's sleep since way before Christmas. In fact, it resulted in a 999 call to the police because they thought one of the residents thought there was a break-in at the school. The school did nothing to contact residents or warn them that this was going on. And actually, it was Councillor Neil McGowan that actually took the residents' views forward because of the unsociable hours of work that were going on with the builders. From my own personal point of view, my property has had damage caused to it by works within the school. The side ramp, I live at 96, which is right next door to the school. When they put the side ramp in, that caused subsidence of my garage. They've recently fenced in at the back. They've put all new fencing, and without doing a proper job, they have just fenced in all the trees that were there. So now they're just growing wild, can't be cut back, and are causing damage to my property. In addition, when they did the work, there were no proper soakaways put in. So the residents here are having to put right damage to their properties from the work being carried out in inferior manner to the school. So for me, apart from the various objections, it's an assurance by the council. As I say, I've been sort of led to believe that this planning is going ahead, that we won't be able to get an objection to it. That isn't going to happen. So what assurance are the council going to give myself and other residents about the issues that we have raised in our objections, namely the parking, which is an absolute diabolical on a daily basis? Even in the current situation, we still get parents that are blocking drives, parking illegally. And until somebody is hurt or killed, then the council won't do anything about it, unfortunately. Can't believe the police have not put any objections, or Lancashire County Council. What assurance will we have of the work that is going to be carried out? How long are we going to have to put up with that? And how do the school propose to build this extension? As I said earlier, getting all the equipment, etc., in there along a residential road.
Okay, thank you very much for that, Marilyn. Appreciate your comment. Alex, as our planning officer, is there anything that you need to add to the application?
Yes, through you, Chairman. In response to the concerns raised, in terms of the parking situation, there is an additional parking space proposed. There's no objection from Lancashire County Council in terms of the highways impacts of the development. It is acknowledged that that there are issues around dropping off and picking up times, as is the case with most schools, and we don't. Our position is that the additional impact that would be caused by this 2 additional classrooms wouldn't warrant refusal of the application. In terms of the condition of the road, concerns that were raised about that, that's a matter for Lancashire County Council as the highway authority. It's not something that we could control through a planning application. In terms of construction traffic, there's a condition proposed to limit the hours of the construction traffic access to avoid those peak times when parents are picking up and dropping off children. In terms of disturbance from construction, that's something that's that there are controls over from environmental health's point of view. So if there's work being carried out late at night that's causing disturbance, residents can get in touch with our environmental health department and they can look at that. In terms of the damage to properties, that's a completely separate civil matter that's not controlled by the planning system.
Okay, thanks, Alex. I'll open it up to debate. Councillor Neil McGowan, you've got your hand up.
Yes, thanks again, Mr. Chairman, for bringing me in. Yeah, basically in regards to the issues, I mean, Alex has just mentioned the extra car spaces. I mean, that's going to be 4 extra car spaces. Really, that's not going to have any impact on the issues or the traffic problems that residents are having to face on a daily basis. I mean, obviously, they're just going to be there for the teachers. What Marilyn's trying to put across is the parents who turn up and the extracurricular classes after school hours. I mean, they haven't been factored into any of this report. In fact, they've just been like glossed over. Well, yeah, they're there, but let's just move on. I mean, I am in touch with LCC in regards to the traffic problems. I am waiting for an appointment to have a Zoom meeting with the district lead officer, Matt Campbell, and the principal of Castercliff in regards to seeing if we can, if you will, for the school to take ownership of the issue. I mean, I've been on this issue for the last 4 years, as residents of Mosenall Road know. And I've tried my best to work with the school, but unfortunately, the school don't see, you know, at the beginning, they had the best of intentions. They sent letters out and one thing or another to parents, but unfortunately, that's as far as it goes as far as they're concerned. Now, in regards to LCC, I've been in touch with them, spoke to County Councillor Keith Hidden. Basically, he tried to give it the cold shoulder to begin with. I replied and I explained that the school attendance covers 190 days and residents are subjected to 30 minutes a day or 57 hours per full term. Now, when residents have been subjected to 57 hours of this torture, which it is just sheer torture. Residents can't leave their properties because people are parked over driveways. Residents are abused. I've seen this. I've been threatened myself. Just be asking someone to, you know, move further up, park off the zigzag lines. We spent a copious amount of money, me and Tommy, out of his ward initiative, having new posts, put in a rush barrier, one thing or another, you know, just to make the kids safe. I mean, it was only 3 years ago that I managed, basically, one of the residents said, bloody hell, that was a good job you were there. One of the parents reversed up somebody else's drive and nearly ran over a toddler. Luckily, I was there to drag that toddler out of the way. Also, would have been a fatality there. Really, the Pendleborough Council really need to get on board with this, with Lancashire County Council and the school, to basically stop this bedlam. It is absolutely crazy. You couldn't write it in a script. You actually need to be there to see it. It's unbelievable. But like I say, I'm waiting for a meeting with the district lead officer to discuss this, and we've had Andrew Snowden on it as well. So hopefully the school will get on board with this, and I'm asking Pendleborough Council to do the same, if you will. Right, I'll just leave it there for the moment. Thank you.
Okay, thanks, Neil. I've got Tommy to come in next, but just before I bring Tommy in, I'm going to suggest something, and hopefully this might be an ideal opportunity. Take on board what Marilyn has informed us about the state of the road, the cooperation of the school. I'm actually quite surprised that a primary school is supposed to be at the heart of the community that it resides or is located in. And, you know, I've represented the Borough Council for over 20 years and also the County Council for over 10 years. And we've had issues. Schools were built in a time when cars weren't aplenty. Obviously, the world's moved on. People have started living in cars. People have started living in cars, in car-sharing households. And what's tending to happen is that schools obviously have tended to work with the community. So therefore, I'm surprised in terms of Castercliff. But what I'm going to suggest, colleagues, is that this may be an ideal opportunity to try and force the county council to come to the table and actually try and help the residents here. So I'm going to move that we defer this particular application until next month. And in that month, I'll facilitate a meeting as leader of the council and invite the school principal or whoever she wishes to send, invite County Councillor Keith Hidden or whoever he chooses to attend, open it up to, and I'll ask Marilyn to work with some of the residents and identify 2 or 3 residents, including herself, because what I don't want to happen is that it suddenly becomes a meeting of a cast of thousands, and that way we won't achieve anything. So if the residents amongst yourselves can ideally identify 2 people who will act as resident spokespersons, obviously the 2 ward councillors in terms of Councillor Tommy Cooney and Neil McGowan, and also the county councillor for that particular area, and try and get a meeting to where we thrash some of these ideas out, because in principle, I have nothing against the extension of the school. Because school spaces are at a premium in Nelson, as all councillors know, and we're inundated on a daily basis that kids from Nelson are being transported as far as Earby to be educated, and that's not something that's acceptable to me. In principle, I have nothing against the principal of the school, and I don't think any councillor does for that matter. But rather than just rubber stamping the decision through tonight with a message to the school governing body to say, look, you must work with the residents, the cynical side of me thinks that if I was a governor at Castercliff, and I'm not, I might think, well, that's fine. Marilyn came and spoke to them for 5 minutes. The rubber stamped the planning application through. That's fine. We'll just continue as we are. That's not acceptable to me as far as I'm concerned. So I'm going to move deferment on the basis that we have that meeting. Like I said, I'll facilitate it as leader of the council and invite the key people. Jane will get in touch with Marilyn and identify which 2 residents will happily come on board. And we'll try and fit in around the residents' timing, because I understand people have work during the day, so we'll try and do it at a time that's suitable to the residents. But hopefully that's a course of action that brings the key players round the table, including the county council, to address some of the secondary concerns which are not part of this planning application, but may hopefully be resolved. So I'm going to move that, and hopefully somebody will support that before I bring all the speakers in.
Yeah, I'll second that.
Okay, so I've got a number of seconders. Okay, next I've got Tommy Cooney. Councillor Tommy Cooney, you indicated to speak.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chairman. I think as ward councillors, I think we're sort of quite happy with that approach. I was going to sort of cover it a little bit myself, and I think what we've got here is clearly, you know, every ward has a school and every school has a problem, and councillors will have complaints of parking and issues at school opening time and closing time. But I've had kids go to primary school in Cong, and that had its problems. but I've got to say Castercliff is on another level with the problems, and sometimes it's very problems because of various reasons. And one, again, Neil has alluded to, we've worked tirelessly to try and get LCC on board to try and implement some changes up there with limited success. But, you know, if this was in another ward, I would be saying absolutely the same thing. Sometimes there comes an opportunity to actually leverage change. And I think this is an opportunity for us to leverage change. And I take on board what you're saying about getting LCC on board. But there has to be some change up on Castercliff and Marsden Road. It is quite horrific in terms of what the residents have to put up with. There is opportunities, I think, in terms of increasing the parking spaces up there. It might be sacrificing some grass verges on the school side, making more bays further down. There is opportunities there, and I welcome the opportunity to explore those, and that's a good way forward. The thing that I just would like to ask Alex as well is just on the United Utilities update on the report on the foul and surface water drainage. So am I right in understanding, Alex, that at the moment there is nothing in place in terms of a scheme to be dealing with the foul and surface water drainage? Because I think, and even Marilyn might be able to sort of allude to this, that there is issues up there with drainage and potential impacts of drainage that has around that area. So it looks like at the minute we don't have a scheme and a plan in place, and I think that would be as well foolish of us to go ahead without having a clear plan and a clear report on what's going to happen with the foul and surface water drainage element as well. So just interested, Alex, what is the status with that?
If I could just help you on, Tommy, we had an updated report from planning officers, and the issue around foul and surface water was going to be conditioned in that before they started, they had to submit a plan to the council. Is that correct, Alex?
Yes, that is. We wouldn't expect there to be foul and surface water drainage details on an application of this scale at this stage. It's a technical matter, something that can always be resolved. So it's standard to have it as a condition.
You okay, Tommy?
Yeah, I'm just obviously concerned because there's a history of problems, and again, the residents know better than that as well with the problems up there. So I'm just a bit concerned that if it wasn't sort of handled correctly and dealt with correctly with the correct plan in place, we just exaggerate the problem as well.
Okay, that's fine.
But in terms of the plan going forward, I'm happy with that.
All right. Okay, thank you. Nadeem, I've got you next.
Thank you. Yeah, I agree. Having a further discussion on this can't do any harm, and hopefully there will be some sort of way forward in a positive manner in terms of the points which are outside the planning remit, in terms of the traffic, in terms of the condition of the road, etc. Obviously, in terms of school places, like you've mentioned, are limited in Nelson. And there is a problem. So I think in principle, I myself, again, we're happy to support the proposal. But like I said, the further discussions hopefully will bring some sort of resolution and bring to the attention that the seriousness of the impact this is having, the school is having on the local residents. I think in terms of the school's role in all this, I think it is a crucial role, and schools should be actively working together with the residents to make sure that both the children's education and residents' lives are not affected in a negative way. But in terms of what Neil mentioned, in terms of that he had arranged a meeting, so I think that does indicate that the school are willing to participate and get involved in the discussions. But unfortunately, many of our schools are in residential areas. Myself and Yvonne live close to Loamshire Junior School, there's Whitefield School, and I think all schools across across the country, I think, have similar issues. But as Tommy's mentioned, this is an opportunity for us to address some of the concerns of the residents at the same time as delivering education for our children.
Okay. Is there anybody that disagrees with my course of action? Speak now.
Mr. Chairman.
Who's that? Neil?
It's Neil. Yeah. In regards to getting
Sorry, go on.
In regards to getting the residents together, what I can do is see if I can sort out a small working group to work along with with the committee and everything else. In regards to the potholes, I mean, you've never seen out like it, but I was just thinking about one particular pothole. It's the size of, I don't know what, nearly a car.
Well, we can talk about potholes at the meeting.
Yeah, just basically just letting the council know and the resident know that they can't fill it in because of the low temperatures at the moment. But I have been assured once the temperatures go back up, they'll be along to fill the big craters in.
So that'll be another 6 months residents have to wait then. That's fine then. In terms of the residents, Marilyn, if I can ask you, please, just to speak to your fellow residents and identify 2 people, but Jane will contact you yourself, and then if you just let her have the details of your other colleague that wants to come along to the meeting, and we'll extend a formal invitation if that's okay.
That's brilliant, and thank you so much for giving me the time today. I really do appreciate it.
Thank you very much. I think we've got a unanimous decision in terms of the proposal, colleagues. And thank you, Marilyn. And likewise, you're more than welcome to stop for the rest of the meeting and listen to this rabble going on, but I'm sure you've got better things to do.
I'll go and have my tea. Thank you very much.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Okay, colleagues, back to the planning applications. The next one is a change of use at the Springbank buildings on Every Street. And I've got Councillor Ashad Mahmood to speak on this first. Sorry, before I ask you, Ashad, Alex, is there anything that you need to add that's new?
We've had a letter circulated, which I believe was circulated around councillors.
It was.
So just to be aware of that.
Okay, thank you. Ashad?
Yeah, thank you, Chair. I've got a few points, but I'll try to be as brief as possible because I know there's probably a lot to cover. I mean, obviously, as you're aware, as the county councillor for this area, and obviously a lot of other councillors are aware, this is a very residential area. Especially this particular area is very well used by young school children and their parents, both on foot and also by cars. And for that reason, I think, bearing that in mind, and for that reason, I think it's quite important that retail kind of stuff. And I think only 2 meetings ago, one of the Policy and Resources Committee meetings, we refused a similar planning application where we were encouraging this kind of retail into the town centre rather than being outside the town centre and in a residential area. Also, I think within the report, it acknowledges that from a highway safety point of view, only recently there have been a few accidents on Lumshire Road, Every Street Junction, and also the Hargreave Street, Every Street Junction. These are very well documented. There've been, there could have been some fatalities there, especially with young children. And I think it's really important to acknowledge that and bear that in mind from a planning point of view. And the report in very great length covers that on highway safety grounds, there isn't enough parking. There's no parking facilities available on this site. I think between 5 businesses, they've got 9 parking spaces. Within those 9 spaces, car spaces, you've got loading bay as well, which covers about 2 car spaces. So fundamentally, with all the businesses that are operating from this place, there is not enough car spaces to run and open another business. Within the report, again, it talks about what do you call it? The commercial bins. Again, there's no particular space for them. It's not suitable for the locations that they've given. Again, there's issues with the deliveries. At the moment, you get double parking, so you can only have one set of car moving across from one side, like from Hargrave Street to say like Lumshire Road or the vice versa. There was just one or two other. I mean, a lot of people have been asking for residential parking there, especially around Lime Street, Heavy Street, Swain Street, Lumshire Road, Hargrave Street. I mean, it's a nightmare already at the moment, and having this business kind of becoming so busy, it's just going to be a nightmare. And you've got to bear in mind, again, from a highway safety point of view, if you come up Lime Street, it's a blind spot, whichever way you turn, whether you turn towards Lumshire Road or Hargrave Street, and it's very dangerous there, very dangerous. One other thing is, I think those are the main points. But I will say, I move refusal on highway safety. Retail should be first instance in town centre, and lack of parking spaces. One final point I would like to actually make is, this business has been operating since last March, I think, 2020, and had proper enforcement action been taken, I think it would have helped alleviate most of these issues that have been raised now by residents. So yeah, that reason I'm refusal on those 3 grounds.
Okay, Councillor One Tennant.
Hi, yeah, I'd like to second Councillor Mahmood on refusing it. We go down there quite often along every street, and the traffic has got horrendous. I mean, people are just parking the cars willy-nilly, sometimes in the middle of the road. It is blocking access, and to be honest with you, between that and the rubbish burning that's also going on down there, I feel really, really sorry for the residents down there. They seem to be having everything thrown at them all at once. I believe Highways did raise some concerns about it. So on the reasons of Highways and traffic alone, I think we should refuse it.
Okay, I've got Alex wanting to come in, but Alex, correct me if I'm wrong. Were you going to advise the committee that if the committee votes refusal, that this will be going to policy and resources? I think you're muted, Alex. Alex, you're muted.
As is explained in the report, this application is a circumstance where the use that is proposed, or at least both elements of the use that are proposed, could be carried out without needing planning permission under the new changes to the use classes order, which integrate a number of uses, including retail uses. And so uses that were previously business uses like this can now operate as retail uses without needing planning permission. So taking that into account, the fallback position is they could essentially go ahead and do exactly what they're proposing anyway. So taking that into account, this a refusal wouldn't be able to be upheld at appeal, and we'd be likely to face costs, and therefore this would be referred to Policy and Resources Committee.
Okay, so can I just clarify then, Alex? What you're saying is that because of a change in the rules by central government in terms of the planning in September,
yes,
this application, if they decided to tomorrow morning decide that they weren't going to do the cash and carry element and we're just going to do the retail, in theory then, or in practice for that matter, according to the legislation that's here now, that they don't need planning permission. Is that my understanding?
That's correct. And in practice, they'd be able to do an ancillary element of cash and carry anyway along with that. Okay. So, in practice, they'd be able to operate without needing planning permission.
Okay, that's fine. Thank you. Next, I want Councillor Nadeem Ahmed.
Yeah, I've got a few questions just on the points which Alex has raised. Alex, can you please guide me in terms of permitted development and the link that has with a conservation area and Article 4 directions in terms of certain things which are not permitted within an Article 4 area, and whether that is applicable in this case?
Through you, Chairman, in this case, it is not applicable because this isn't to do with permitted development. This is to do with the use classes, and changing a use within a use class, which this would be within use class E, isn't development. It's not something that falls within planning control at all. Permitted development is a circumstance where something needs planning permission, but that planning permission is automatically granted by the general permitted development order. That isn't the circumstance here. I did previously mention that in relation to this in the previous meeting, but that was in relation to the previous use of the building and the longevity of that use, because that previous B1 use of the building would have been permitted under permitted development rights. So that was where I brought that in. But this particular use isn't permitted development. It's not development at all.
So this application before us, being in a conservation area, has no significance whatsoever?
None, no.
None whatsoever, right, okay. Secondly, in terms of this matter now being referred to P&R, totally disagree with the view taken by yourself in terms of referring this to P&R because you feel it's a major breach of council policy. Right, am I correct in that?
No, it's because if we were to refuse this on that basis, it would be significant risk of costs at appeal. It's not a matter of policy because it's something that wouldn't require planning permission otherwise.
Again, in terms of the cost, I disagree because I think we do have strong grounds in term for refusal. I'll come on to them highway issues shortly, but I think we've got a very strong case as Pendle Council, and I'd like to seek, I think after the meeting, obviously I can't do this now, but seek legal advice from our experts at Pendle as to whether or why they feel they wouldn't be able to defend this case. So can I then follow up a question? Has advice been taken from our legal department as to whether they feel that they would be able to defend the council's position if we decided to refuse this application?
That is part of the referral process. So the referral process is that we go to the legal department and ask their view on it. But from our point of view, it's the planners who defend decisions. And in this case, the fallback position of this not really needing planning permission would have to be taken into account. And when you're taking that into account, there wouldn't be grounds to refuse this.
Right. We're going to come on to the fallback position later, but I'll just raise it now. The fallback position is that they need planning permission. There is no fallback position. If the applicants didn't need planning permission, we wouldn't be discussing it tonight. It'd be done and dusted by officers and said, well, carry on and you can continue doing what you're doing. The use that the applicants intend to use this building for does require planning permission. I know we can't divide the two uses in terms of is it cash and carry and the retail. There is one application before us, And we can only decide the application based on the planning application before us. We can't pick and choose certain parts of it.
Technically, yes, it does need planning permission because it's a mixed use. However, in practice, the development could essentially go ahead tomorrow without needing to apply for permission. We do have to take that into account.
So if this application is, we don't make a decision, for example, the applicants can just carry on and doing what they're doing anyway. Is that what you're saying?
Yes, and I understand they are preparing to submit a certificate of lawfulness alongside this on that basis.
A certificate of
lawful use.
Lawful
application.
Right, but so what I might sound silly here, but if what you're saying is correct, then we don't need to discuss this application tonight. Why is it on the agenda?
We do need to determine the application because we have an application before us. People have the ability to apply for planning permission for things that wouldn't otherwise need permission, and have that determined. And if we don't determine applications, there's an ability to appeal for non-determination.
Thank you. I'll just go on to speak further on it. I've asked the question I needed to, but I'm baffled. But regardless, Councillor Asjad Mahmood mentioned that this use has been this business has been operating since March 2020 without permission. This was brought before this area committee by myself. Other councillors discussed this in detail, and we agreed to write to the owners to say, why is this building be used for the purpose it's at? Now, I don't want to sound harsh, and this is nothing personal against the applicants whatsoever. This is a playing field. We've determined a similar identical application at the Palatine. I know the rules have changed since then, and the previous use might have been different. When we were discussing the Palatine Club, that was a far more suitable site for this particular use, a cash and carry and a bit of retail, than this site ever is. Any person with a bit of common sense would agree with that notion, because the Palatine had plenty of parking spaces. There's no residents on the other side, it's just a canal, and there were no objections. And generally speaking, residents don't complain about a particular issue for the sake of complaining. And we can't always take on board what residents complain about, because there might not necessarily be planning considerations. But we still have a right. For example, on the previous one, there was issue about the road surface and potholes, and it wasn't really a planning matter, but the residents have still got the right to raise them concerns. But in this particular case, when a huge number of residents have been contacting myself since, say, beginning of 2020 on different issues regarding this building, and particularly the planning aspect of it, absolutely nothing has happened from Pendle Council's side to support our residents. And that's a failure of Pendle Council for not backing our residents, because this issue shouldn't even be here today. In terms of the issues, I've mentioned the conservation area. I mean, in my view, the conservation area, we continuously told by in meetings and planning application that when there's a conservation area, a particular planning application, it should enhance and preserve the area where that site is. This does nothing, absolutely nothing, to enhance or better the area. We should be, if there is a conservation, and we are serious about our conservation, which we continuously told about issues that this is a conservation, you can't do X, Y, and Z. And yet we've got a significant building in a conservation area where there's no disregard to the conservation aspect of it whatsoever. Secondly, the main reason for refusal, I think, which has been mentioned, is, I believe, highways. Lancashire County Council have laid out their reasons for refusal in great detail. There's three main aspects to it in terms of highways. There's the extra traffic, the parking problems, and the road safety issues. I mean, I'm just going to quote some of the comments made by Lancashire County Council. So basically says they object to this application on highway safety grounds. The development site is located within the area of terraced housing where there is no associated off-road parking provision and consequently a high demand for parking on the surrounding highway network. At the time of the visit, parking was noted on the streets within this area, often only following single vehicle flows. I mean, us ward councillors, Councillor Iqbal lives close by, Councillor Asjad Mahmood, myself, and other residents, Yvonne Tennant who've spoken, we're perfectly aware of the highway issues in that area. It's absolute chaos. Further down on every street, we've got other groceries on a smaller scale, in the smaller buildings, the cash and carries. I'm inundated with residents from Hereford Street, St Mary Street, and that parts where residents are complaining about large delivery vehicles coming and blocking side streets. It's been on social media. Council officers are aware of all these issues. The planning department should be aware of it. So there are issues in that area, existing issues. And all we're going to do by approving this is make the situation far worse than it currently is. The report clearly says there's issues about the parking element, which the applicants have submitted as their evidence for parking space for their particular business. It's fundamentally flawed in terms of the evidence that's been provided in terms of the parking spaces for this particular use, for this particular building. There's issues about delivery vehicles, there's about bins, and all the parking spaces which have been mentioned actually even going to be available for the business users and customers. And the answer is clearly not. If you go down now and see that site, the forecourt, there is nowhere. We're seriously suggesting residents are going to park there or the business owners are using that forecourt. We're kidding ourselves. There's, I think, 4 or 5 existing businesses operating from within that building currently. And there is no parking space available for another business whatsoever. And we just, I mean, the report is, I mean, the conclusion, I mean, if you actually read the report, the conclusion you're going to come to is that it's going to be a straight refusal. Never mind the other issues, just simply on highway grounds. But if you read the conclusion, it's totally different. It's saying we're going to approve, we should be approving this application. Apologies, I'm going on. The only reason I'm going on, and I know people might be bored, but I've got to raise the issue because residents, I've had the number of emails and phone calls I've had about this application. I've been a councillor for 17, 18 years, and I've never had so much contact from residents objecting to a particular application. So I think I need to do it justice. There's already existing pressure on parking spaces for residents. If you just go down that part of every street, the side streets, Lomshire Road, there is no parking provision for homeowners there as it is. And we're just going to make things a lot worse. Excuse me. There's also, in talking about delivery vehicles coming in and delivering to this site, members will recall there's been issues with other buildings on every street where large lorries are coming down parts of Rupert Street and Spring Street, further down on the other side of every street. And what we're doing is we're creating another problem of lorries coming down small side streets where vehicles are double parked, and we're simply asking for trouble in terms of highway safety. There was a child seriously injured on Hargreave Street, not far from this site, and all we're going to do is we're going to create more difficult decisions and parking and driving conditions for road users in that area. And clearly it says, given the highway safety concerns outlined above in the report, the Highway Authority objects to this application and recommends refusal. Even with the updated response, they're still saying we should be refusing this application. Can I now turn to, I was going to go on to the public response, but the public response, I think most of them against the application are planning matters. There are 1 or 2 things which are not planning related, but most of them tend to be. if you look at the response received in support of the application, it says 116 signatures. They're not really planning considerations, saying the cash and carry is beneficial to our community. Of course it is. If there's a cash and carry, it does benefit the community. But we've been looking at other applications. Is there a real need, a further need for a business like this within the area? There are similar businesses in walking distance, just further down every street. There is no need for another business of this type. It's saying it provides fresh, low priced, which is good. Yes, that's fine. Groceries in a convenient area. Yeah, but how convenient do people want it? Do we want shops on every corner? We looked at, in terms of business having to locate within the town centre, we looked at a similar application on Railway Street, and we were told, yes, if they follow the sequential report, if there is a genuine need for a corner shop and to serve the needs of a particular community, yes. But the needs of the community already being met in that area by existing businesses.
Okay. Nadeem, Nadeem, I don't want to cut you off in mid-riff, but
right.
Have you got long to go?
Another 2-3 minutes, please.
All right. Okay.
Yeah, I won't go long. Talking of, I'm just going to go about the officer comments briefly. Policy ENV2 of the core strategy says that all new developments should seek to deliver the highest possible standards of design, inform and sustainability. I know there's no external alteration, so it's not really applicable. In terms of sustainability, this site is not sustainable for the number of users in that area, and in terms of having to cope with the traffic and the number of vehicles. Policy ENV4 requires new development to have regard to potential impacts that may be caused on the highway network. Where residual cumulative impacts cannot be mitigated, permission should be refused. These are policies which we should be following, like we've been told day in, day out. Policy WRK4, retailing and town centres, basically talking about the sequential reports, and policy 25. And the report says that they don't really need to follow the sequential report. I just totally disagree. They should be following the sequential report like every other applicant. They should have to find other businesses and provide written evidence that they can't find another similar building to cater for their needs in the town centre. So I think there's huge reasons. So I think, just summarising, I think the main two reasons I want to go on is highways and residential amenity as grounds for refusal. So if I could maybe perhaps ask Asjad, I can't remember if you covered residential amenity.
I'm sure he will do.
Yeah,
Sure
okay, thank you. Yeah.
Okay, I mean, I've got Asjad to come back in and then I'll wrap up. Asjad?
Yeah, I'm happy to, thank you, Chair, happy to...
excuse me, Mr. Chairman. Can I speak?
Yeah, I'll bring you in next, Kath, after Asjad.
Thank you, Chair. Just briefly, a question to Alex. Is this a planning application a significant departure from policy if it's refused on the grounds that will be laid out?
There's a significant risk of costs at appeal.
So it's not a significant departure from policy.
Yeah, just to help. I mean, Asjad, if I can just help, the planning officers, it's not necessarily, this isn't about council policy. There's a risk of cost because of what the classes order was changed by government. So if there's a risk of cost, then there's two grounds that they can refer to PNR. So that's why I think, Alex, there's nothing to do with council policy. Does that help, Asjad?
Yeah, as long as I mean, I disagree with that. It's because it's not significant departure from policy, so I don't think it should be going to PNR.
Okay.
That's my view.
Fine. Councillor Kathleen Shaw.
Thank you so much, Mr. Chairman. Here we go again. This goes on too often. Cart before the horse. They should ask for planning permission first, not the other way around. Do it, then get planning permission. Right. Next. LCC objects, say there should be 21 spaces for parking, which is nowhere near 21 spaces. And Shell shall not commence until details of parking, servicing, manoeuvring arrangements have been submitted to and approved in writing by the local planning authority. Has that happened yet, please?
No, because we've not determined the application yet, Kath.
Have you? So that will happen.
Well, it depends on what the outcome of this decision is. Are you there, Kath?
Does it need planning permission or not? I'm a bit confused.
Well, in terms of the planning permission,
And if it doesn't need planning permission, why is it on the agenda?
Right. Well, if I can help, Kath and colleagues, I mean, I think Alex was well, I understood what he was saying, but if you read the report, the applicants have put a planning application in, so we have to determine that planning application, whether we agree, disagree, or whether they don't actually need planning. That's their prerogative.
Yeah, but they've already done it.
Yeah, Kath, can I just finish now? So if they don't need planning permission, as Alex has said, that they need to apply for a certificate of lawfulness, which we understand is going to be made. But the points raised, and I share the frustration of colleagues in terms of local democratic accountability not being heard. But the fact is, and the report makes reference to this time and time again, this is nothing to do with Pendle Council's policy. If it was a Pendle Council policy decision, maybe we would have a different outcome in terms of our planning officers. But the governments have changed the classes order. And at the end of the day, whether we agree or disagree, if the government have changed it in legislation that allows this type of operation to happen without planning, there's nothing that I or anybody on this committee can influence in that sense. So we're well within our remit as Ashad has moved to refuse planning application. But because it's going against national legislation, what government have put in place, the planning officers are quite right, in my opinion, to refer it to policy resources, because if I was the applicant, I'd have an absolute field day against the council, saying that, hold on, Little Pendle Council is trying to overturn what government policy is. The government have made this policy, not Pendle Council, so we need to be clear on that. And our officers' both hands are tied behind the back when it comes to something like this. But in order to move the thing along, I've got a proposal from Ashad to refuse it on the grounds of highways and residential amenity, as added to by Nadine. That's been seconded. I'm going to call each councillor's name.
Mr. Chairman, I've got my hand up, please, if I may come in, just for 2 minutes.
Go on then. You've had 25. I'll give you another 2.
I know, but it's important, Chairman, we get this right. This is an opportunity for us to protect our residents and make sure they don't suffer unnecessarily or suffer any more than they already are. I mean, I'm sorry to say this, but as Pendle Council, there's been no support for our residents whatsoever in regards to it. But you're perfectly aware of the issues, as are the councillors. We've done nothing. They've been having to report back and email, constant contact councillors and officers on a regular basis, and there's been absolutely no action whatsoever. This is unacceptable. Secondly, in terms of, I still disagree with this being referred to Policy and Resource Committee. Let's not hide behind the government. The government are not making the decision. I've heard this about 3 times. I didn't want to say this because I don't want to make it political. But this is not the government making the decision this evening. This is us, Nelson councillors, determining a planning application. Boris Johnson or anybody else, a minister, is not sat here voting to refuse or approve this application. This is in our control to either pass it or refuse it, as simple as that. And on what basis this is being referred to P&R, I've no idea what's being discussed behind the scenes, and it is extremely worrying, to say the least. It's unacceptable. Let's refuse this application, and I would urge Alex to reconsider and not send this to the P&R. It's our residents who live in that area who are going to suffer.
Okay, let me just clear a few things up with you, Nadine, then I'm going to move to the vote. If you read the report on page 6, time and time again, the planning officer is making quite clear that it is Boris Johnson and his friends that have put the council in this.
Point of order.
No,
Nadine,
no. I'm chairing this. No,
Nadine, I've got no, but you're factually incorrect.
Nadine, I'm chairing the meeting and I'm going to speak now. So if you don't mute yourself, I'll ask you to be muted.
No,
so I'll
but
speak, and then, as I've said, I'm moving it to the vote.
give me a chance to reply. The report, read page 6.
Nadeem, I'm chairing the meeting, so
Iqbal, you're wrong.
Nadeem, I'm chairing the meeting.
I know.
You'll listen to me. I've listened to you.
I will.
For the last 25 minutes, I've listened to you. If you read page 6, the report makes quite clear who's tied this council's hand behind our backs. And let's not be washing around the edges. It's government legislation that's put us in this predicament. So in terms of the decision to make the decision one way or another, as I've alluded to, if the government hadn't introduced this, maybe, and I'm not a planning officer, maybe the recommendation would have been different and the decision would have been made here at Nelson tonight. But our hands have been tied as a council, and it's not Pendle Council, it's all councils. The second thing is, in terms of referring to PNR, Alex has made quite clear why it's going to PNR, and I may disagree with that, and I disagree with planning officers quite regularly, but I respect their professional opinion. And the third thing that I take exception to colleagues saying is that the council has done nothing to help residents. The fact is that in terms of this planning application and other peripheral issues, things that have been put in place by the council. Now, okay, maybe not to the satisfaction of some residents, but I would fundamentally defend council officers in terms of some of the things that they have done and have been doing and still are doing. But we just need to set the record straight and not just attack council officers for the sake of attacking them.
I apologise if I've come across as attacking.
I'm gonna,
but Iqbal,
Nadeem,
please just read one sentence.
One sentence, and then I'm.
Yeah, it just says, the report says, you refer to page 6, it says, however, this application is for a mixed use of both, which does require planning permission.
What's your sentence?
I've read it. However, this application is for a mixed use of both, which does require planning permission. Right, this is Neil Watson saying that.
I'm going to move to the vote. So there's only one proposal on the table. That's to refuse on the grounds of highways and residential immunity. I'll call each councillor's name out. If you're in favour of that, for. If you're against it, against. If you want to abstain, abstain. Councillor George Adam.
For.
Thank you. Councillor Nadeem Ahmed.
Refuse. Against.
No, you're in favour of the refusal.
Oh, sorry. Yeah. Yeah.
Councillor Zafar Ali.
For.
Councillor Mohammed Ahmed.
For.
Councillor Eileen Ansar.
For.
Councillor Mohammed Aslam.
For.
Councillor Tommy Cooney.
For.
Councillor Mohammed Iqbal. For. Councillor Ashjad Mahmood.
For.
Councillor Neil McGowan.
For.
Councillor Kathleen Shaw.
Definitely in favour of the refusal.
Thank you. Councillor Yvonne Tennant.
For.
And Councillor Sheila Wicks. For, thank you. Jane, I made that a unanimous decision to refuse. So that will be referred to the Policy and Resources Committee on the 11th of February, is it, Jane?
Yes, 11th.
Yes.
Yeah.
Fine, thank you. Okay, moving on to the final planning application, which is for a dormer at the front roof slope at 130 Car Road. Councillor Ashjad Mahmood.
Thank you, Chair. I would like to move the recommendation for approval of this planning application. I understand that this is the first dormer in that particular block, but there are dormers on the opposite side, on both opposite side blocks, and even if you go over the bridge, they're quite good sized dormers at the top end of Car Road 2. Coming down Car Road, again, there's not much, you will not be able to visualise this particular dormer because it's right at the far end, far corner house on the right side. And coming up Car Road, this, again, particular property is on the corner, and you have the motorway bridge, which you will not be able to visualise the dormer at the front. So for that reason, I move approval. And I think it's also important to bear in mind, we've just approved only a couple of months ago on the opposite side of the motorway, 6-storey high car parking building and the police station, which is probably higher than this property itself. and has a probably more detrimental effect, generally speaking. So I move approval.
Thanks. Nadeem, are you seconding that?
Can Alex has got his hand up. If Alex wants to go.
I need a seconder first, and then
I'll second him.
I want to speak on it though.
Okay, that's fine. Alex, do you want to come in, and then I'll bring Nadeem back in?
Yes, through you, Chairman. I just want to draw the councillor's attention to the recent appeal decision at Chapel House Road, which is on the agenda, where the inspector dismissed an appeal against the refusal of a front dormer window, and that supports this recommendation for refusal.
Thanks. I'm sure planning officers will continue to remind this committee of that decision. Thank you, Alex. Nadeem, you wanted to come back?
Yeah, this committee has generally supported dormer windows as long as obviously they're within a reasonable design and material. And I think this is a pitched roof dormer using materials which are going to be in line with the existing materials, so they don't look out of place, out of character. And the report mentions in terms of having no other dormers on a particular block. I mean, I think we're way past that in terms of approving applications where numerous times we've passed dormer windows on blocks where there are no existing dormers. And I think as long as the dormers are done in a way which is done of good quality material and good design, they don't really have, in my view, a detrimental impact on the local area. So I'm happy to support approval.
Okay, and I'm sure colleagues are aware there's some beautiful dormers around the corner on Milton Street.
Indeed.
Yeah. Okay, so I've got a mover and a seconder to approve this application. Is there anybody against it? No. So that's carried, Jane. Thank you. Item B is the appeals, just for noting. Item 7 is the enforcements, just for noting. Item 8 is the capital programme. Can I move that we deallocate the funding as in paragraph 9 and note the recommendation? But can I just make a plea to 13 councillors, including myself, who haven't spent their ward initiative money? I know this year's been unique, and most of us have usually spent it by this meeting. But if you'd please be kind enough to try and spend it by the next meeting, otherwise Julie will take it all off you.
Mine's going through the box.
No, she won't.
Thank you very much. Item 9 is the reopening of the High Street. Can I ask Councillors Zafar Ali and Yvonne to give us an update, please?
Yeah, Chairman, I'm happy to go first. On this, we have had a meeting of the working group on this. We had Nicholas Emery and myself with Yvonne Tennant attend the last meeting. We discussed the current progress in terms of the reopening of the High Street, which sort of is thrown up in the air at the moment, considering we're obviously back in another lockdown. That being said, we are forward planning. I propose to the group alongside my colleague Yvonne Tennant that we investigate the potential of having a virtual High Street initiative to allow better access for consumers to businesses operating in the High Street, be it retail businesses, professional services businesses, or whatever kind that may be. Mike Williams has kindly taken on board our request, and there's work in progress in the background going on, and hopefully there'll be further information on this to report at a future meeting. But yeah, it's a difficult period for all businesses, and it's obviously our job as representatives of the town to try and support these businesses, especially those who are suffering right in the centre of the town due to the current public health crisis. And I think one of the answers, it might not necessarily be the only answer, but one of the answers is more certainly the virtual High Street, which we're currently investigating, Chair. So hopefully some exciting news for businesses in the town going forward as well.
Okay. Yvonne, Nick, is there anything that you need to add?
Not a lot. We're talking about some of the European money has to be spent by March. I believe we've asked for an extension on that, but I don't know how far that's got. So we're saying about things in terms of signage and stuff like that to actually get all that ready in advance, just in case they decide to get the money off us, so everything's ready to go as soon as the High Street's allowed to open again.
Okay, thanks. Nick, is there anything that you need to add?
No, not really. I've spoken to 2 or 3 shops that's still open, but I haven't been able to contact anyone else to get their reviews on what's going on at the moment.
Okay.
Okay.
Thanks, fine. Thank you very much. Thanks for that, colleagues.
Bye.
Moving on to item 10A, Nelson Cemetery. Nadeem, I think you put this on.
Yeah, I did put it on. It's kind of, in a way, been superseded by other events at Pop P&R, but I sent the email, so I would rather, I said for it to remain so we can have a discussion on it. I mean, unfortunately, due to COVID, the number of deaths we're experiencing are far higher than in normal times, and you'll be well aware, Mr. Chairman, that the capacity at Nelson Cemetery is being reduced, and sadly, like I said, even at a faster rate in the last year or so. Just to put it into perspective in terms of the capacity we have for the burial in parts of the burial, for example, in the Muslim part of Nelson Cemetery, we've probably got at the moment, you're talking roughly perhaps, I don't know, 4 to 6 years left, but obviously it depends on the number of deaths, nobody knows that. But as a whole, in terms of the non-Muslim burial spaces, based on the number of deaths we're having, the number of years is slightly higher than that. But I think there is something, whilst I acknowledge that officers are working behind the scenes in terms of trying to bring some sort of strategy forward in terms of the long-term deliverability of cemetery spaces, I think this issue needs to be taken slightly more urgently, I would say, and give it more urgency to this. And I'm going to suggest that we, as a Nelson Area Committee, perhaps we take initiative. I know officers are working on it, but I think if we can have, I would request an urgent report, well, not urgent, a report at the earliest opportunity, I'll word it like that, to explore in terms of the options of, number one, extending the existing cemetery, and B, looking at alternative sites in Nelson or further afield. So we've got a medium to long-term strategy in terms of where we're going.
Okay, if I can just help colleagues in terms of the strategy, I mean, I am working with the senior leadership of the team to identify future burial spaces, not necessarily just in Nelson, but across the borough. So this is a borough-wide issue, not just a Nelson issue. And there will be a report coming to Policy and Resources in due course once some of the sites have been identified and some of the work done by officers. So my suggestion to colleagues is, if you let the Central Committee, because it's a Pendle-wide issue, deal with it on a Pendle-wide issue, and then we will disseminate that information. If the Policy and Resources Committee decide to take a course of action that relates to Nelson, we will refer some details back to Nelson for further discussion and consultation with you as Nelson councillors.
Chairman, can I please request, and I totally get what you're saying, but I think it might be gives opportunity to all the Nelson councillors to have some sort of input, rather than P&R referring it back to us. I think if we, as Nelson Area Committee, are kept in the loop as well, we can make our own suggestions and recommendations to P&R.
Yeah, my intention is not for P&R to make a decision. My intention is for P&R to take overall control of the strategy going forward for all the cemeteries, as I said, and then we will revert back to area committees. P&R won't make hopefully won't make a decision without consulting the area committees in due course.
That's fine. Yeah, okay. Yeah, fair enough. Yeah.
Okay. Shad, did you want to say something?
Just to echo both
Councillor Eileen
Answer and Councillor
is now exiting.
I fully support that. I mean, I mentioned at one of the previous P&R meetings, I think it's about just before COVID started, that Pendle-wide, we've got a big issue, and a report will be brought back to Policy and Resources Committee, which was unanimously agreed. Obviously, we've not had it, but now you mentioned that we will be having one.
Yeah,
that's positive.
The work was agreed to be done once you suggested it, Ashad. It's just that COVID has now accelerated that work, as other colleagues have highlighted. So we'll liaise with all area committees, and I'll hopefully liaise with colleagues here at Nelson in due course. Item 11 is exclusion of public and press. Jane, have we got any public and press?
Yes, because we're live streaming, so if you just give me a second and I'll let you know when we've stop the live streaming.